Welcome to The Author Show, where we feature new authors and books, from fiction to self-help and everything in between. You'll find it all at theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. And now let the show begin.
Hello and welcome back to the show. This is your host, Don McCauley. Today we're welcoming the program author Erik Segall, and he is the author of Not Yet. Erik, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I'm an author here in Pueblo, Colorado. Wrote for the Pueblo chieftain for a number of years. I teach karate to kids. I taught in the high schools for a little while, and I taught at the Colorado School for the Deaf and Blind for a little while. So I've been quite busy.
Well, tell us about your book.
My book, the line is Entertainment Encourages Suicide. That's 400 pages boiled down to 3 words, and it's about a social worker at a suicide prevention and crisis hotline center, and he is tormented by the request to help his ailing grandmother kill herself. So he's trying to prevent suicide in the nighttime, on the hotline, and all day he is helping his grandmother die.
Now, who did you write your book for? Who's your target audience?
My target audience, quite a number of people, really suicidal teens, I think, would find this interesting. Mental health workers, mental health professionals, therapists, clinicians, survivors of suicide, people and survivors of depression, people who have either lost someone to suicide, a family member or a friend, or someone who has attempted themselves and who has survived. Those are really who I wrote it for, and I think it comes down to really I'm hoping to offer hope.
Could you say there's any type of central message or perhaps underlying theme that you would say runs throughout your book?
Well, the title, Not Yet, is the theme, is the message. It becomes kind of a mantra that pops up over and over again throughout the book. And I think what I offer at the very end is that people are not suicidal, but that rather events can temporarily make us so. We have this trauma, we have these events that kind of overwhelm us, and pain becomes too much, emotional pain, psychic pain, physical pain, and we have thoughts of suicide. And so I think hopefully to the reader, they might be struggling with this as well, and my advice or the solace that I offer is not yet. Just please, not yet.
So if you had to choose, what would you say is the single most important idea you're sharing in your book that's really going to add value to the reader's life?
Hopefully it'll save a life, either the reader's life, someone they know, and also maybe that it answers some questions to survivors of suicide. If you've lost someone in that tragic way of them taking their life, that this hopefully might answer all those questions of why. That is the question when it comes to suicide. People ask how and the method, but I don't go into that. It's really hopefully answering some of the questions of why someone would take their life.
So if you could compare your book with any book out there we might already be familiar with, which book would it be and why?
Well, I feel it's like an emotional Rocky Balboa staggering through the jungle of the feminist utopia of Charlotte Perkins Gilman's Herland. Now, that's a bit much, I know, but think of it as one man in this emotional struggle, surrounded by women, and kind of this male perspective. I've heard that it's been described a little like Chuck Palahniuk. Someone also said it's a poor man's David Foster Wallace. It's 400 pages. It's intense. A lot of people have to grab a dictionary maybe, occasionally, but there's a lot there for everybody. I think there's so much that readers can really find value in it.
What do you mean by Not Yet as the title? What's that have to do with suicide?
Right. I think I kind of answered that earlier about just not taking your life yet. I mean, maybe I should have named it Not Now, Not Ever, but people do have, and some of the readers might be struggling with depression and suicide, and if that's just become the mantra, maybe a life-saving mantra, just of not yet, to help people through the dark night, these long days of pain perhaps, and just to wait. Life changes so quickly, so not yet.
How would you describe yourself as an author?
Arduously reluctant. It's a painful process. Writing hurts. It's an emotionally honest process, and it's almost like self-induced torture. You have to sit and do the work. But for me, the writing process, and I think a lot of readers will feel this, it's how you get something out of you. So for me, it's a way to expunge depression in a socially binding and positive manner that other readers will recognize. They'll recognize that in themselves.
So how do you write? What's your process?
Well, sitting down, doing the work. I've heard that you have to love the work, but this was hard. This was a hard one. I've written a few books. This is the first one to get published. So I cried a lot. I screamed a lot. I teach karate, so I got to hit a lot of punching bags, but that's part of the process. And I also talk about what I call the process in the book, and that's a little different.
How is it different?
In the book, I talk about the process of crisis counseling. And the process of crisis counseling is, I think, how we block the transference of pain. So I was taking suicide hotline calls, and people are kind of laying this burden of pain. And so how do you, as a therapist, as a crisis counselor, how do we deal with that? How do we, process that pain? And so that's kind of the process. And I go through in detail. I think readers would really find that interesting on how a therapist, a counselor sets themselves apart from the pain of someone struggling with suicide and depression.
So in your opinion, what's the difference between a writer and an author?
Well, I'm not sure about the difference. As a writer, you sit down, you do the work. An author, maybe an author, somehow you're published to something to that. But either way, you really need three things maybe to go from writing to being an author. And here it is. You'll need a lot of time. You'll need a little money. And you have to love rejection. And here's the thing. You will not have enough time. Life has distractions. You got to find an hour once in a while or 2 hours to put the words down. So you'll never have enough time. It will be more expensive than you expected. You really have to, if you want to put yourself out there, sometimes you're footing the bill. But here's the nice part. You will get used to the rejection. And after a while, you kind of forget all those rejection letters and all the people who said no. And you just remember the successes, and you get to share those successes with people who love you and are happy for you. And that's wonderful.
So what's been your most rewarding experience since publishing your book?
About a month ago, Julia Alvarez, she's the author of In the Time of Butterflies, and she came to Pueblo, and I was able to meet her. And she had heard about my book from a friend of hers, and so I was able to kind of offer it to her. And there I was kneeling by her side at the book signing, and I came up to her and she said, "I want to hold your baby." And I just was very touched by that. And we had a nice picture that was taken, and there was an article in the Pueblo Chieftain today, and that picture is there, the two of us, Julia Alvarez. And so I am immensely grateful to her. And she was so kind and generous, and I'm feeling that a lot of authors are very supportive and are helpful to other people going through this, and so that was a wonderful moment.
Now, did your environment or upbringing play any major role in your writing?
The past is helping me to promote the future. We all have these experiences, and if we can channel those to put our work out there. So I've been blogging and kind of, I finished the book and going through the publishing process for the last 18 months, and they had some great advice, setting up an author's page, blogging about the process of editing and publishing and the creative process. And so now I'm using all that material as I go forward to promote, which is interesting. So I think the past can help you promote the future in a very positive way. So it certainly has helped.
How would you describe your writing style?
The publisher is marketing this as a literary and psychological fiction. They call it a humorous suicide hotline novel for the holidays. But as for my writing style, I love dialogue. I love playing with dialogue. I don't do a lot of setting. I kind of want to get to the story and get to what people are feeling and what we actually hear and the responses in a dialogue and all those pauses in dialogue that we have with every day. And I think readers really understand this. I have 120 endnotes. They were footnotes and now they're endnotes. And it's what happens in a conversation. So say like right now we're having this interview and this conversation, and I look over and I see this cup on my desk. That would be a footnote where, maybe I bought this cup in Mexico last summer on vacation. I had a wonderful time. I'm playing on the beach. So as we're talking, I'm picturing this cup here, and that little endnote comes into the dialogue and gives more information about the dialogue in the book. I think readers will find that part fascinating.
Now, most authors have a very specific reason for writing a book. What was your reason for writing this book?
Offer hope. I hope this book offers hope. I have an idea that in a year, maybe a mother in her 50s who lost her daughter or her son to suicide and is now maybe struggling here late at night, and she's made a call to the suicide hotline, and somehow she hears about my book, or someone has handed her my book, and she reads a line and it helps her. And here's the thing, as an author, I'll never know. I might not get a review or a tweet or something like that, and that doesn't matter. If I can offer hope to readers and help them through a dark time, maybe the darkest time of their life, that's all that matters.
What part of this book would you say you personally like best?
I love the first page, the dedication on who it's for, and it says for Cooney, and that's my grandmother, and she's one of the central characters in the book, who's asking the main character to help to die. And so this is a very personal story. It's a lot about my grandmother. I love those two words and seeing that in the book. And the first page, the prologue, the first page is a hook. A lot of people respond to it. I think readers, it'll really hook you. I've had people just start openly weeping. So the first page I think it'll get you.
In your opinion, who should buy your book?
Survivors of suicide, teens struggling with suicide, mental health professionals, therapists, people who have lost someone, a lot about depression. I think there's a huge market of middle-aged women. As I'm a bartender, and I'm hearing a lot of, it seems middle-aged women are reading and writing, but it's really for men. The male's character is a man, and he's surrounded by women, and so it's his thoughts, kind of a male, sports and cars and all these things, and some martial arts. So, like I said, there's a lot in there, but people, I think, who can help is who it's for, and that's it's about suicide. That's what it's about.
Do you have a website?
I do. It's my name, eriksegal.com. It's my author's page, ErikSegall.com.
Well, this has been just great. Our guest today has been Erik Segall, and he is the author of Not Yet. Erik, thanks very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and to talk about suicide prevention generally. Thank you so much.
This is Don McCauley wrapping up another edition of The Author Show. Go out there, buy the book today, and please share this interview with your friends so that they too have the opportunity to discover our guests. Remember, The Author Show can be accessed at any time at theauthorshow.com. Selected interviews can also be found on major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and many more. And whether you're an author who would like to be featured or a reader in search of new books to read, The Author Show is a great place to start. Check us daily as we continue to introduce wonderful authors, very interesting books on The Author Show.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. Find out more about authors and their work at theauthorshow.com. Theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.